Solomon reigned in Jerusalem 40 years before he passed. The most prosperous era in Israel history came to an end. His eldest son Rehoboam succeeded him at age 41 and reigned for 17 years. Troubles started to emerge during these years.
Rehoboam had his enthronement ceremony in Shechem. His choice of location is puzzling. Why did he not choose Jerusalem, the capital?
Geographically, Shechem was at the central part of Canaan, and its ruins are in a small town called Tel-Balata near Nablus, Israel. The ruins sit between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, and the shape of it looks just like its name in Hebrew. Shoulder, saddle. It is full of the footprints of Israel's ancestors here. After Abram entered Canaan, the first place he pitched his tent and built an altar was here. 20 years after Jacob escaped to Padan Aram, when he returned to Canaan, he also camped and built an altar and bought land here. About 100 years later, Joseph's body was buried here. After Joshua led the Israelites into Canaan, he built an altar for Yahweh, God, on Mount Ebal to renew the covenant God made with the Israelites on Mount Sinai. He admonished the Israelites to obey God's word at Shechem before he died as well.
It is possible that there was tension between Solomon and the 10 northern tribes. Towards the end of his reign, therefore, Rehoboam chose this place to consolidate the stability of the north and south.
Jeroboam, son of Nebat, was appointed by Solomon to oversee the labor force of the tribe of Ephraim. One day the prophet Ahijah prophesied that he would one day rule over the northern 10 tribes. When Solomon heard of this, he sought to kill him, so Jeroboam fled to Egypt, returning only after Solomon's death. Upon arriving in Shechem, Jeroboam, representing the 10 northern tribes, requested that Rehoboam lighten the harsh labor and heavy taxes. Rehoboam rejected this advice and instead increased their burdens, threatening to scourge the people with a scorpion whip. It is speculated that a scorpion whip was a whip with sharp metal at its end, causing a stinging pain like a scorpion's sting. As a result, the 10 northern tribes under Jeroboam's leadership rebelled against the Davidic dynasty.
However, behind these surface events, the true reason was Solomon's idolatry in his later years. As he followed his foreign wives in worshiping idols and no longer worshipped Yahweh wholeheartedly, it was as if a cracked bowl could no longer hold Yahweh's abundant blessings. This also fulfilled the prophecy of Ahijah. However, God did not abandon his covenant with David and preserved the Davidic line.
At this time, God sent Shemaiah to stop Rehoboam from attacking the northern kingdom, solidifying the division between the north and the south. The first king of the northern kingdom, Jeroboam, fearing that the people would turn their hearts back to Judah if they went to Jerusalem for festivals, set up 2 golden calves as worship centers in Bethel in the south and Dan in the north. He also instituted his own festivals, broke the law, and appointed priests from the general populace. The northern kingdom not only betrayed the house of David, but also Yahweh. They ignored God's repeated warnings through his prophets. 200 years later, they were conquered by Assyria. In Rehoboam's first 3 years as king, he followed the ways of David and Solomon, and God strengthened the southern kingdom of Judah. He fortified 15 cities along the eastern, western, and southern borders, but did not build defenses in the north. Possibly because he still hoped for reunification with the northern kingdom.
When Jeroboam of the northern kingdom set up his own high places and priesthood, rejecting the role of the priests and Levites, the priests and Levites across Israel were forced to leave their cities and move to the southern kingdom of Judah for the sake of their faith and service. Some Israelites from the northern kingdom, seeking Yahweh, followed the Levites' footsteps and migrated to Jerusalem. They were like Aquila and Priscilla in the New Testament, or like the Puritans on the Mayflower from Europe, who were forced to immigrate in order to serve Yahweh with dedication and freedom.
While Rehoboam was strengthening the kingdom, God also blessed his household, and he wisely dispersed his sons throughout the land to guard the territories. Unfortunately, the Bible tells us in just a few years, he did evil, for he did not set his heart to seek the Lord. After Rehoboam felt secure in his strength, he led the people away from the law of Yahweh, which led to an attack by Shishak, the Pharaoh of Egypt. Shishak, also known as Shishak I, was the founder of Egypt's 22nd dynasty, reigning from around 945 to 924 BC. In 925 BC, he invaded Judah and Israel from the south.
To celebrate this military campaign, Shishak erected the Grand Bubastite portal at the entrance of Karnak Temple. The reliefs on the portal depicted rows of prisoners with name tags, over 150 of which indicated the cities he conquered. Although many of these names are no longer legible, several biblical cities have been identified, such as Arad, Tanak, Bethshan, and Megiddo. In 1925, archaeologists at the Tel Megiddo site found a stone fragment with Shishak's name on it. This fragment is part of a monument celebrating Egypt's victory over Megiddo, confirming the biblical account. However, 2 Chronicles records Shishak's attack on Jerusalem, but Jerusalem's name does not appear on the Karnak Temple's relief, which suggests that after taking the treasures from the temple and palace, Shishak did not occupy the city. Furthermore, after Rehoboam and the leaders humbled themselves in response to the prophet Shemaiah's message, the Lord turned away his anger and did not allow Shishak to destroy the city.
After Rehoboam, his son Abijah briefly reigned for 3 years. In the book of Kings, he is also called Abijam. He committed all the sins that his father did before him. His heart was not true to the Lord his God, like the heart of his father David. However, the author of Chronicles highlights a more positive side of Abijah. During his reign, a great battle occurred near Mount Zemarim in the hill country of Ephraim, where the armies of the northern and southern kingdoms faced off. Abijah delivered a famous speech on the mountain, addressing Yahweh's covenant of salt, with whom was the covenant made? The betrayal of the northern kingdom. Who caused the betrayal? The orthodoxy of religion, whose commands should be followed? The declaration of holy war. For whom do we fight?
These questions were reminders to the Israelites of the northern kingdom that their betrayal was not just against a king, but against Yahweh, their God.
Despite being outnumbered 2-1, every man of Judah cried out to Yahweh, and the priests blew their trumpets. God defeated Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. Jeroboam never regained his power and could no longer attack Judah. After Abijah, his son Asa succeeded him as king and reigned for 41 years. Asa was the first king of Judah to lead a spiritual revival, and his reign can be divided into 3 stages. 1. Religious reform and removal of idols in the country. 2. Political improvement, building fortified cities along the borders.
To understand the structure of these fortified cities, the Lachish ruins, located about 40 kilometers, 25 miles southwest of Jerusalem, provide the best example. This is Lachish, the second most important city after Jerusalem in the southern kingdom. It was a strong fortress located on a hilltop covering about 70,000 square meters, making it easy to defend and difficult to attack. The well-preserved ancient mounts, or tell, It is above ground like a mound and formed by the successive layers of ruins from ancient cities built up over time. The relics in each stratification gives us clues to understand the corresponding period. Archaeologists have divided the tell at Lachish into 6 stratifications. The 4th layer belongs to the period of King Asa and his son Jehoshaphat in the 9th century BC, and contains a solid fortress system. The city gate has a typical 6-room structure used as guard rooms, or the lower levels of towers.
The walls were double-layered, with the space in between divided into small chambers for soldiers or storage. 3. Military victory, defeating Zerah the Cushite. Some scholars believe that Zerah the Cushite refers to Orsakhan I, the second pharaoh of Egypt's 22nd dynasty. However, the original text does not call him a king, only a Cushite, leading some to think he was a subordinate ruler under the pharaoh, akin to a commander-in-chief.
After Asa's victory over Zerah, he followed the prophet Azariah's encouragement to strengthen his commitment to the Lord and applied these spiritual principles in his religious reforms.
First, he removed the detestable idols of Canaan and repaired the altar of Yahweh. In the 15th year of his reign, which was 1 year after Zerah's invasion, he gathered the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, along with the people from Ephraim, Manasseh, and Simeon, who had settled among them to celebrate Pentecost in Jerusalem.
Pentecost, also called the Feast of Weeks, usually falls around May or June in the Gregorian calendar. The Hebrew root for 7 and covenant is the same, and 2 Chronicles 15 records.
They entered into a covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, with all their heart and with all their soul. All Judah rejoiced over the oath, for they had sworn with all their heart and had sought him with their whole desire, and he was found by them, and the Lord gave them rest all around. After this, Asa took further steps in his religious reforms, even deposing his grandmother, Maacah, because she worshipped the idol Asherah. He dedicated the sacred gold and silver vessels to the temple.
For the first 35 years of Asa's reign, he sought Yahweh wholeheartedly, and God gave him peace. However, his pride and spiritual rebellion in his later years brought trouble to the kingdom.
In the 36th year of his reign, Baasha, king of the northern kingdom, attacked Judah and fortified Ramah, located just 13 kilometers from Jerusalem, to prevent movement in and out of Judah. The Benjamin Plateau, where Ramah was located, controlled the main route from the north to Judah, making it a strategic hub. And Ramah was in the center of the plateau, making it an important transportation hub. Instead of seeking Yahweh, Asa took silver and gold from the temple and sought help from Ben-Hadad, king of Aram. During the reigns of David and Solomon, Aram was a vassal state to Israel, but now the king of Aram had allied with Baasha. Although Ben-Hadad accepted the silver and gold and turned to attack Israel, temporarily relieving the crisis, the prophet Hanani rebuked Asa for relying on Aram instead of God and foretold that he would face constant wars. Asa, instead of humbling himself, became angry and imprisoned the prophet. He also oppressed some of the people.
In the 39th year of his reign, Asa developed a severe foot disease. But he still refused to seek help from Yahweh, relying only on physicians. He passed away 2 years later. The author is not opposing seeking medical help, but pointing out that Asa no longer listened to the prophet Azariah's word as he did in his early years.
The Lord is with you, while you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you abandon him, he will abandon you.
Recognizing the sinfulness of human nature makes us long for salvation. As long as we are willing to accept the redemptive grace of Jesus Christ, we can experience the forgiving love of the Father. The God who searches the hearts is watching today. If we approach Him with honesty and fully trust in Him, we will experience His mighty help.